we should be having something like this. This should be your end frame. And what we want to do is we want to kind of go on and do something a little bit more kind of interesting. And I sort of made this little kind of movie. It's the idea of kind of like taking this and turning this more into a scene. And so what I want to show you is how to take a kind of a simple kind of like object and then take the final thing and then stick it into another scene and use it in a more cinematic way. So let me just stop all of this. God knows what's going on with it. So you should have this, and so what I want to do is show you how to build this scene in order to make the final scene. So what I'm going to do is get rid of all of the things that we do not need. So at the moment I've got like this and this. I'm just going to press X and delete them. So X delete. Everything's running really slowly because I am using I'm using a screen capture device at the same time, so everything's running a little bit slowly. So I'm just going to sort of like gradually delete things. So it might be a bit slow. I'm going to get rid of that. I'm going to take the background and get rid of that. And now we have this, and this is basically exactly what we want. I'm just going to delete. And so what I've got now is I've got donut. I've got this as an environment. I'm going to delete that. Got the coffee cup as a collection. I'm going to delete that. And so now what I have is I have donut. I have sprinkles with the sphere in it, and the sphere is like one of these little objects that we use to create our sprinkles. I need to shade those smooth. I don't know why they're not smooth, but now they should look a little bit better. And these are all of our sprinkles, and I'll show in viewport shading. We can see it all. It's all looking kind of exactly how we want it to. The problem with importing objects into other scenes is that what we're going to end up with is it will bring in all of the shaders and all of the textures and all that kind of stuff, and that's great. But what will happen is that we'll have some kind of problems with scaling. So we need to fix that straight away. So I'm going to take the plate, because if we look here in the object, we can see that location is a bit crazy and the scale is a bit crazy. So I'm going to go to Object and Apply and All Transformations. And what it does is it zeroes everything out. I'm going to take the donut itself and I'm going to go Object, Apply, All Transformations. And I'm going to take the icing, Object, Apply, Object, Apply, All Transformations. And then there's this little one down here, again similar issue, Apply All Transformations. And in fact we don't do it on that one because it will create problems with our sprinkles on the final thing, if that sort of makes sense. Okay, so now this is sort of ready to import into our new scene. So I'm going to save this. So I'm going to save this as, and create a new folder, and I'm going to go desktop, and in fact I'm going to save to Google Drive. It's going to be a bit more efficient. I'm going to go to my drive, Blender Work, and I'm going to create a new folder in here, and this one is going to be called Donut Scene. Now, if you want to spell donut the other way, go for it. So I'm going to go in here, and I'm going to save this as donut loan. Okay, and then we go save as, and we got this. And so what it means is that now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the plate like the master object in this. So let me just bring everything down. I'm just going to go into wireframe just so it's a bit easier to move everything around. And so this and this, I'm going to go Control P. I'm going to parent the object. I'm going to take this, Control P, parent the object. I'll take this, this, Control P. Okay, so now when I move the plate, everything else moves, and we've got like a very controllable object. It's easy to maneuver and move around, and that is basically, we're kind of like good to go. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm gonna build the plinth that this is gonna sit on, and I'm gonna do that really quickly. All I'm gonna do is just kind of create a cube and make that your good final size, and then we can turn off the and I'm just going to line it up just to make sure that it's sitting on it, and just center everything. That looks good. Okay, so that's going to be our plinth. I'm just going to have a look at it from the top and move it into location, and that looks good. Okay, so this is going to be the plinth that our object sits on, and it's gonna sort of like be a dais. Is that the word? Or I don't know. And then we're gonna kind of build up the layers, and we're gonna make it look kind of cool. So what we're gonna do, take this cube out of there because we don't want it to be in the we just want it to be in its own kind of collection, as it were. And then donut itself, I'm just gonna shut it off so we don't see it, okay? Because we want cube to be in its own collection, and we will do that now. And I'm just gonna create a new collection, and we'll call this scene objects. Okay, and so this is going to be, this is where we're going to build everything. And so I'm just going to concentrate on the dais, and don't worry about it too much, because what we're building, we're trying to build like a cinematic scene. And so I'm going to use some of the tools we've already used. So I'm going to inset this a little bit. And why is it not insetting? Wrong thing. So inset it a little bit, and then I'm going to extrude it, and then that's cool for the top bit. Then I'm going to take this one down here, and then I'm going to do like a big bevel on it, kind of. In fact, I'm going to do an inset, and then I'm going to move it, and that looks good to me. And then I'm going to do a big extrude down like this, because I want to make like a dais, like in that film, what was it, Indiana Jones, and the I think it was the Temple of Doom, where he went to try and find the kind of font of eternal youth or something like that. And so what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to sort of build that kind of thing. I mean, the thing is, we built donuts, and everyone's been building donuts since forever. And so what I want to do is kind of like, I want to pay homage to the donut, if that doesn't sound too ridiculous. And I'm going to grab all of these four sides. You don't need a massive amount of detail in this, because the bottom line is that this is, and in fact, I'm going to have to do these one at a time, because ultimately you're not going to see a lot of this, but I'm going to do it anyway, because I think it's always good to have detail, and that's going to make it move in. And we probably only need 3 sides, because we're not going to see the other, so there's no point doing it. I mean, if you were working on production, you probably would, because someone would notice it, and it would affect lighting in a subtle way or whatever. So then we got like this, which is our dais, and then what I'm going to do is go back into object mode, and I'm going to add a bevel onto it. And I add a lot of bevels, and bevels are really, really good for making really nice kind of like graceful objects, and you can see that it's kind of added like some really nice sort of detail to it. And you might need to make it a bit smaller, and that looks good. Okay, and then I'm going to smooth shade all, and then you can see, actually I'm going to not smooth shade it. It looks better like that. So now we've kind of created our dais, or die, or plinth, or whatever the hell you want to call it. And what I want to do is, the thing that I'm kind of not happy about is that I want it to be on the floor. So I'm just going to move that, and just move it so that it's kind of like that sitting on the floor, and it will make our scene a bit easier to work with. I'm going to take my donut, I'm going to switch it back on, and let's go back to wireframe and grab the plate, and then we can move everything up, and then we can move this onto the dais, plinth, whatever, what have you. If you struggle moving around on stuff, go to Object, go to View and Frame Selected. If you right click it, you can add it to the quick menu, and then press Q, and then you can just frame select it, and it makes life a bit easier. Okay, so it looks good. I'm going to spin. I'm a bit worried about this texture. The texture is a little bit weird. So I'm just going to sort that. Yeah, this is struggling, and are we going to see it? Actually, we're not, so let's not worry about it. Okay, so now this is kind of basically that's built, and so that's our dais. And then I'm going to texture it now, because some people kind of like to texture it at the end. I prefer to texture as I go. I find it a bit easier. So what we're going to do is you can texture this any way you like. Okay. So I am going to create a new material for it. The material is going to be pretty simple. I have got some great materials in here. I've got like concrete. Concrete's pretty good. So I'm going to use that, bring in that, and bring in the roughness. It's an easy way to keep the file browser like that, because then you can kind of you can see what you're doing. And then I'm going to put the base color in. And it looks a bit rubbish because we haven't unwrapped it, so I'm going to take my whole object, and I'm just going to UV unwrap it. And so just to kind of make it a little bit better, it looks still a bit rubbish, so I'm going to Q project it. And let's have a look at it. That looks better. So back into shading. Okay, so that looks cool, and just going to minimize that, and then we got the roughness, plug that in. Remember, it's non-color. And that'll just add a little bit of texture to it, and then this is the normal map. So go to Vector, normal map, plug this in. This goes into the normal. Might be a bit close in for all of this stuff. Plug it into the normal. That's going to give a little bit of bump. We don't, I mean, that's a lot of bump. A bit too bumpy. And non-color, you won't notice a massive difference. And then we just need to bring that down. So 0.3 or something like that is good. And so there we go. So now we got the plinth, and it's nice, kind of reasonably well textured, and it looks okay. Things that you can, muck around with are, you can change, like stuff like the roughness at the moment is controlling how shiny this is. So let's bring this right up so we can see how shiny it is. If you need to change that, then you can go A and add a color ramp. So just put in an RGB curve, and then you can change how kind of how shiny this is. So you can see that it's sort of changed it like quite a lot, and you can muck around with that to get kind of what you want really in terms of the look. I think it's a little bit, if I'm kind of looking at the surface, I'm going to go back to UV, and I want to make it a bit more detailed, so I'm just going to scale it up a bit. And let me just scale it up a bit even more. Yeah, that looks better. Okay, so that's the texturing done, and does it look all right? Oh. Yeah, it looks all right. It's I think maybe it's a bit too bumpy. And let me just bring this down. I want to change this kind of because I want to give it a kind of like almost like a marble feel to it, which kind of sounds a bit weird, but you know. And then take the metallic off a little bit. That kind of looks alright. Okay, so that's my plinth done, and now I'm going to save. And so I'm going to go File, and I'm going to go Save As, and I'm going to call this Donut Scene 1. In fact, O1, because it will organise it better. And I'm going to go Save, and I'm going to stop the video, and then I'm going to show you how to continue.